Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the internet. For those who don't know me, my name is Leo, leader of Sedeve Youth, and I am always accompanied by the lovely.
Diana,
Y-
hello.
yes. So today we're going to get into the beginning stories. It's the beginning of a new year. We're going to get into the word at the very beginning.
Beginning.
And make sure that you guys watch the entirety of the video, like and subscribe. At the very end, we will have a question of the day as well as a challenge, which will, I'm sure, humiliate me like it always does. But we'll have a good time.
Yes.
And before we get into what we're gonna talk about today, we're just gonna pray. All right, Lord, thank you for having us here. Thank you for just your wonder, your grace. Thank you for allowing us to get some of this wisdom, allow it to get into our hearts, into our minds, into our feet, and then allow us to go into your path, in your purpose, and all the glory be to you. Amen. All right,
Amen.
guys. So today we're going to get into Genesis 1.
The
All right?
beginning.
We're going to get into the beginning, how this world was created, and why, I guess. All right? So we're going to get straight into it. All right? We're going Genesis 1:1. And then we're going to stop and we'll talk about a few different points. All right?
Yes. I'm going to read from here today.
Go for it.
Okay, Genesis 1:1. You tell me when to stop.
I'll tell you when to stop. Go 1 and 2.
Okay. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was formless and empty, and darkness covered the deep waters, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the surface of the waters.
All right. So what we see is just darkness.
Mm-hmm.
We see darkness and somehow we see waters, right? And it
Formless.
said, yes, it said, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was formless and empty. Now, when we read this, we always think about the creation of the earth, right? But sometimes we need to think of this as a creation of us, all right? How before we get to know who God is, we're very formless in the sense that we don't know what purpose we're made for.
Mm-hmm.
We're going through life aimlessly, not really knowing why we're here. And the more we get to know God, the more that gets revealed to us. And we're going to continue reading in 3 and 4, and we're going to see revelation. We're going to see light. Okay? And we're going to see the power of God. All right? Go for it.
Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good. Then he separated the light from the darkness. God called, you said 3 and 4.
Oh, go 5 too.
Okay. God called the light day and the darkness night. And evening passed and morning came, marking the first day.
All right. So God said, "Let there be light," and there was just light.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even say, "Let there be a sandwich," and then a sandwich will appear. It just won't. I might get like a chancla thrown at me,
Yes.
and that's usually not a good thing.
It's not a
Yeah,
sandwich.
absolutely. It's not a sandwich. It's not as tasty. Absolutely. So y- God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And he said that it was good, right? And then he separated the light from the darkness. Now, this is an interesting topic. Is is light the absence of darkness, or is darkness the absence of light? Have you ever thought of that?
Hmm. I think darkness is the absence of light.
Yes, absolutely. Why? Because what did we just read in Genesis 1?
He created light.
Well, in Genesis 1,
You go back up.
there was darkness. So
Mm-hmm.
darkness was it.
That's all there was.
But then he created light. So there's always darkness, and light comes in to break through. All
Mm-hmm.
right? So what we see here is we see limits. He separates light from dark. He separates day from night.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have a concept of days.
Mm-hmm.
What's the importance and what's the significance of the concept of days? Why?
You
Why
know
is
what
that
day it
necessary?
is? What you need to do?
Sure. So with days, you can kind of get a sense of or track what progress looks like. Because if we lived just one really long day, you couldn't say, oh, today I'm better today, or I'm a bigger, more wiser person than I was years ago,
Mhm.
right? So we get a sense of time, we get a sense of boundaries. And we're going to continue to see this here in Genesis. And why are boundaries necessary? Why are limits something that he sets? Okay, let's go ahead and continue reading. We'll do 6 through 8.
Okay. Then God said, "Let there be a space between the waters to separate the waters of the heavens from the waters of the earth." And that is what happened. God made this space to separate the waters of the earth from the waters of the heaven. God called this space sky. And evening passed and morning came, marking the second day.
All right. So God, well, you know what? Here's another thing. There couldn't be a second day if there's no days.
I was just
If
gonna
there
say,
was
yeah,
no days.
it marks,
Absolutely.
keep track of,
Look at that. So
progress.
even God needed days.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So, he separated the waters, right? He said, "This is the sky and this is the earth. These are the waters of the earth."
Yes.
So, he sets limits, and we're going to have to really examine what limits mean to us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because there's good limits and bad limits. Like if you guys are ever at a stoplight and you're just sitting there, you're hoping to God that some guy doesn't go crazy and just barrels right into you,
Mm-hmm.
right? What are the limits on the road? They're just lines.
Yeah.
They're just lines.
They're not gonna
And they're
stop
all
him.
rules that we
Lines and lights.
agreed to go ahead and follow. And that's why you get a license.
Mm-hmm.
A license is really just, hey, I want you to study these rules. I want you to take this test. And if you're able to accomplish that, that means that you're agreeing to follow these rules
Mm-hmm.
due to the test that you've
Yeah.
just taken,
Follow
right?
these limits and boundaries. Mm-hmm.
So limits and boundaries are something that save us all the time.
Mhm.
They're warnings. They say, hey, if you walk too close to the edge, you're gonna fall and die.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to not always look at limits and boundaries as a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
We need to look at them as something that can protect us.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So let's go to 9 all the way to 13, actually. 9
Okay.
to 13.
And then God said, "Let the water beneath the sky flow together into one place, so dry ground may appear." And that is what happened. God called the dry ground land, and the water seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the land sprout with vegetation, every sort of seed bearing plant, and trees that grow seed bearing fruit. These seeds will then produce the kinds of plants and trees from which they came." And that is what happened. The Lord produced vegetation, all sorts of seed bearing plants, and trees with seed bearing fruit. Their seeds produced plants and trees of the same kind, and God saw that it was good. And if an evening passed and morning came, marking the third day.
All right, guys. So, what's the one thing that, like, let's say, your parents say, do this or do that, right? You can kind of decide whether you want to do it or not do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if there's like a tornado outside, if there's a tornado outside right now, are you going to do whatever you want?
Hopefully not.
No, because if you do, you're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you're going to die. In Chicago right now, I don't know how cold it is, but it's freezing cold, right? If you were to walk out there, it's going to be cold. If you wear like just a t-shirt and basketball shorts, you're not going to do well out there,
No.
right?
Mm-hmm.
In the summer here, all right? If you were to bundle up in a parka and walk outside, you wouldn't do great.
No.
All right? So what we see is like my friend's husband was going to going to Iowa or Nebraska, and he had to drive through like Wyoming, right? So he's driving through Wyoming, and they just straight up closed the highway because of the ice and the snow was so ridiculous, right? when it comes down to like God and weather, you got to adapt to it.
To him.
All right? So we need to just look at the power that we're seeing here. All right? And we need to see like weather and seasons as God's power, because you have to adapt to it.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, like, I need to say that to myself. Like, look at what kind of power. Look at what this says. It says, let the waters from below heaven gather together in one place, and the dry land may appear. So this water is just gathering in one place, and then just the earth is coming out. Just imagine if you were just like sitting next to God as this is happening. Like, this is crazier than any like scene that you would ever see in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the kind of God that we have, right? And then it says, let vegetation, so we got to humble ourselves sometimes. It says, let vegetation sprout from the earth, all kinds of plants with seeds, trees that bear fruit. Now, we're going to talk about vegetation for a little bit, right? Vegetation is how we like nourish ourselves, right? We either eat the vegetation, or the animals that we eat the vegetation that happens,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
And how do these plants grow? Like, have you guys ever like sprouted a plant from a seed?
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible just to have like a tiny little thing, and you put it up. You put it up.
Tape
What
it to the
what we
window.
used to do is have like a little plastic bag, put a seed in there, have a piece of paper, wet the piece of paper, and then just tape it to your window so it gets direct sunlight, and then something sprouts out of there.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden you feel like, oh wow, I just created something, which you didn't.
Nope.
All you did was give that the tools to go ahead and do what God created it to do.
Mm-hmm.
So what we see here is God is already providing for us. He's like, let the vegetation sprout in the earth. Now, in our day-to-day life, the vegetation is what we consume, the food, but it's also the spiritual food. It's
Mm-hmm.
reading the Bible, getting to know who God is. Because we'll see here, it says, the earth produced vegetations, all kinds of plants and seeds and trees that bear fruits with seeds. The seeds produce plants and trees of the same kind.
Mm-hmm.
So what we see is that this vegetation produces seeds.
Mm-hmm.
All right? The vegetation of the word produces seeds in us that sprout out to be the fruit of the Spirit, right?
Mhm.
The fruit
Yep.
of the Spirit. So if we consume this, then we can go ahead and nourish someone else with the wisdom that is in the word that we're consuming, and we're nourishing others, all right? And it says the seeds produce plants and trees of the same kind. So if I put in wisdom, what am I going to produce? I'm going to produce
The
wisdom.
Same time. Wisdom.
All right? So this is what we're going to see, is that we want to make sure that we are consuming his word, and that we're giving love, positivity, and service out. Why? Because that will allow other people, that will inspire other people to do the same. That will inspire people to produce seed, take in the vegetation, produce seeds, and those seeds will cause more
Mm-hmm.
more love and service and more kindness to one another.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to share with you guys one example. Last Wednesday, we had some tamales, right? So we had some tamales, and I heated them up, and I went to a park really close to our house, right? And I mean, we live close to some parks where there are homeless people, right? So I go, and I heated up some tamales, and I've done this a few times now. I had some fruits and some waters. So I went, and there was a few of the tamales. I ran into this young lady, and I was like, "Hey, are you hungry? Have you had breakfast?" And you could tell that she lived there at the park. And she's like, "No, I haven't." And I was like, "Hey, I brought you these tamales." And then I taught her how to open them because I had done this a couple of times before, and I've come to the realization that not everybody knows how to eat a tamal,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So then that was funny.
That was
That
cute.
was funny. So then I taught her how to eat it, and then she's like, "Oh, thank you very much." And I start like we talked and prayed, and then I'm like, "All right, I got to go to work." It was right before work. So then I was walking away, and I turned back to where she was, and I saw her grabbing some of her tamales and going with another gentleman that also was sleeping at the park, and like trying to give them
Yeah, sure.
share the food with him. So what was I doing? I was planting a seed in her
Mm-hmm.
to, and she decided to go ahead and plant a seed in him of
Mm-hmm.
kindness. And this is just how we're gonna improve as a society.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you want to say something?
No, no, yeah, that was beautiful. Like you planted the seed, it sprouted in her, and she passed it on. Yeah.
Yeah, and nothing is better than seeing that like
Mm-hmm.
immediately, 'cause that was like, and you're not always gonna
Yeah.
see direct like
Results.
results just like that, but that was incredible. That was really cool to see.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to see the same thing. We're gonna see how the seeds of the same fruit, I mean of the same tree, sprouted the same kind of fruit,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's like if you plant an apple tree, don't expect a lemon tree,
Mm-hmm.
right?
One lemon. Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna keep on reading
Yeah.
in 20 though.
And
All
yeah,
right.
also like if it's what you're planning, it can be either good or bad, right?
Yes, what are you planning? So in our day-to-day lives, are we nourishing ourselves with the word, with that wisdom, with that service that we see as an example of Jesus Christ? And the more we consume that, the more that we're going to produce that fruit. And we're going to be able to influence other people and inspire other people to be more not like us, but more like Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And then that will give us the opportunity. Why are you always so nice? Why are you always coming over here and helping me? You know what? Because of Jesus. Because of the love of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Go for it. 20. Let's go 20 to 23.
Okay. I was gonna say we gotta keep going.
We're
20 to
gonna
23.
we're gonna skip a day, but the day that we're skipping is really just the creation of animals, I think.
Mm.
Or no, the
Light appear, separated these lights in the sky, like
what's the fourth day?
smaller governing the night, stars and the
Oh, the
moon.
stars and the moon. That's what we're
Okay.
skipping. All
So
right.
20. Then God said, "Let the waters swarm with fish and other life. Let the skies be filled with the birds of every kind." So God created great sea creatures and every living thing that scurries and swarms in the water, and every sort of bird, each producing offspring of the same kind. And God saw that it was good. Then God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply. Let the fish fill the seas, and let the birds multiply on the earth." And evening passed, and morning came, making the fifth day.
All right. And he says, "Let the fish fill the seas and the birds multiply on the land." So, what he wants is for these creatures to be fruitful and to multiply,
Mm-hmm.
right? Why do you think he wants them to be fruitful and to multiply?
For the creation to continue to keep passing along the
Sure,
goodness that he created.
absolutely. To also, provide us with food as
Mm-hmm.
well. To continue on with just the wonderful creations that he's made.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's go to 27.
Okay. Mm,
This is where we come in.
27. So God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. Then God blessed them and said, "Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and govern it. Reign over the fish in the seas, the birds in the sky, and all the animals that scurry along the ground. Then God said, "Look, I have given you every seed bearing plant throughout the earth and all the fruit trees for your food. And I have given every green plant as food for all the wild animals, the birds in the sky, and the small animals that scurry along the ground, everything that has life." And that is what happened. Then God looked over all he had made, and he saw that it was very good. And evening passed, and morning came, marking the sixth day.
All right. And it says, it answers the question here. Why did he create plants and why did he want the creatures to be fruitful and multiply? It says, I had given all the seeds, or yeah, the seeded plants on the ground and all the fruit trees to serve as food,
It's food.
and I have given every green plant as food for the wild animals, for the birds of the sky. So he made this perfect
System. Yeah.
system. And honestly, like the coolest thing that happened from the pandemic was that I remember reading this news story about dolphins returning back to Venice, which is like a city in
Italy.
Italy that is like the way you get like
Thinking.
the streets are like canals. The streets you have to go through like with there's no
The
cars
boat.
in Venice. The cars are boats
Mhm.
there. So with the pandemic, with just the sheer fact that people had been kind of going away a little bit and there was less pollution, that actually drew dolphins to get near. So I think that's a way that we need to look at ourselves and say, man, God created this perfect system and we seem to be corrupting it a little bit, and we need to make sure that we go back to those roots. So the goal is to at some point be able to nourish ourselves so much with the word so that we can be examples to other people, so that they can come to the realization that we need to make sure that we're being good stewards of the responsibility that he's given us here. Cuz what does this say? It says take care of the earth, and I'm going to put you in charge to reign over the fish of the sea, the birds in the sky, and all the animals that run in the ground. So are we doing a good job of this?
Mhm.
That is something we have to think about. So God is an environmentalist God too. So that's something we have to
He
make
created
sure.
it. He wants to take care of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, like in Chernobyl, that's actually a city where like there was this nuclear like accident. There's like a lot of um vegetation and stuff that is like thriving there. So I feel like sometimes we get in the way
Mhm.
of what's going on with the earth. If we were to just leave mother nature or the earth alone, then it would be this perfect system that would just be fine.
Mhm.
And I think we just need to make sure that we're taking our responsibility. And I'm not saying we all have to be tree huggers and whatnot, but we need to make sure that we're taking this like responsibility seriously.
Yeah, he gave it to us to reign over and to take care of. Yeah.
So this is the start of a new year. All right, guys? We need to get into the very beginning. Let's start with the basics, the creation of the earth, how we start our lives and we don't know what's going on. We are this formless being that we may have, a mother and a father, but we don't know why we're here. Sometimes we're like 17, 18, 19, and we still don't know why we were created and why we were made. So, what are we going to do? We're going to consult with the God that created us. We're going to consume His Word. We're going to take in that vegetation, and we're going to make sure that the seeds that we plant in other people are the seeds that He wants us to plant for the purpose that He made us for. And He made us to be able to take care of the creatures of the world, as well as, which also includes us.
Mhm.
Jesus said that the most important commandment was to love your God with all of your heart, mind, and soul. But you cannot do that without loving your neighbor like you love yourself, right? Because why? Because God loved us so much that he wanted us to have this responsibility, and he sent us Jesus Christ so he could die for us. So he wants to make sure that you're taking care of his creation and that I'm taking care of his creation.
Yep.
And when I do that, I'm taking care of God's daughter, and you're taking care of God's son. All right? And you guys may not be parents, but that's like the greatest thing when you know that you can trust someone else with a son or a daughter. And we need to do that because that's what we were made for, and because of just as an action of gratitude of how good God is to us. So thank you, guys. We love you guys. We'll go ahead and have our question of the day. But just know, guys, we need to make sure that we're consuming the word every day and that we are just sowing into other people, because you're going to start seeing people look at you a little bit different. And honestly, if you've been a part of church or have been studying the word, but you have not seen a change in your life, then just you need to get into the word and take it seriously. Take it as a homework assignment. Take it as your biggest responsibility that you could ever have in your life, because that's what's actually going to make a difference. Just because you go to class doesn't mean that you learn anything. It's actually reading, studying, and getting to know the material. Reading and studying and getting to know a God. All right? So it's not about, you know, uh, perfect attendance. It's about the effort that you put into it. All right?
Yep.
So what's our question of the day?
Our question, which just read in 29, he gave us seed-bearing plants and animals and everything, that system that we talked about. Why did he give that to us? What is the purpose of it?
That's actually a hard question.
The system.
All right, cool. So that's our question of the day. What is our
challenge of the
challenge
day?
of the day?
Yes, one of you want to join us? So today we have our bubblegum challenge.
Oh, I don't want to do this. Do you want to do this?
I am. I figured out three.
Oh,
Put on
3. All right.
You can do 1 or 2. The challenge is who can blow the biggest bubble.
Oh, it's the bubble?
Yes.
All right. Go ahead and take a seat.
You're doing 1 or 2.
So my biggest issue, I don't really like,
two.
are we all in frame? I don't know. I don't really like a ton of gum in my mouth. Like, it's just, I don't know.
It's hard.
All right.
Oh my god. So you have to be the judge who has the biggest bubble. If I forget, follow us on TikTok, Instagram, CDV Youth LV. 2 pieces.
Maybe you should have gotten some softer gum.
I tried. It's just cold.
You can hear my jaw cracking.
Is that what that was? Microwave it? That probably worked.
That's how you do it?
8 seconds.
Okay.
All right.
Let's just see who can do a bubble, period. Can't believe I put 2 pieces. What? Should we do it at the same time?
I'm leading so far.
I haven't even tried.
This is hard.
A pop. I think one piece would have been enough.
All of you guys have done the same.
We gotta lose.
My jaw hurts just from watching you guys eat.
Mm. Was that any bigger? That's pretty big. All right.
I'm done.
I don't want to do this anymore. So I'm saying I was the winner.
You
All
let
right,
us
guys.
know.
We love you guys. We'll see you next week. Read the word, man. Read the word. If you really want to see a change in your life, that's the only way that is going to happen.
Ask questions.
It's been an incredible, amazing journey for me. And I know Diana has learned a ton too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we love you guys. See you next Wednesday. Oh, what?